Now the question arises in my mind that the lease, that is the right to use of capital goods or equipment by the owner of the asset called as lessor to the person known as lessee in return of the periodic installments. So why one will prefer lease rather than buying it, taking loan from the bank? What are the advantages or disadvantages of lease? That is why and why not lease. So let's begin with first discussing the advantages of lease. Now this line is not relaxing. What I need to tell you, the first advantage is the flexibility. Now, how the lease is more flexible as compared to taking loan from the bank? There are always two choices with the business. The first is to approach the bank and take a loan, and the other is to opt for the lease. Now, lease, the leasing companies are only in the business of lease, so they have to attract the customers. They also want to increase their turnover and the profit. So these leasing companies can modify the contract as per the specific requirement of lessee. How and why? Because they are the owner of the asset itself, so they can modify these contacts or can adjust according to the lessee. Now the second advantage is, do you know this bank? It is one of the biggest, that is the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. And there is another leasing company in China itself. Now this man who was having a wonderful idea has two approaches: has to go to a bank and take a loan and to take a lease. But do you know that the bank will ask for some security and even refuse to give the 100% finance? So if he wants the 100% finance for his projects, then definitely the leasing company will help him, not the bank. And the process, taking loan from the bank and taking loan from a leasing company, financing, taking equipment from the leasing company, is less time consuming. Bank involves in the procedure of documentation, verification, securities, so the time consuming and documentation burden is reduced when you take a lease. And the most important, that lease does not affect, has no impact on the borrowing capacity of the lessee, because it is off the balance sheet item, and it can be paid from this income that he is going to have in the coming years. So this lease does not have any impact on the debt to equity ratio or the current ratio of the lessee, because it is off the balance sheet item. And the short-term lease or the operating lease, the repairs and maintenance expenses in that lease are borne by the lessee, are borne by the lessor, who is the owner of the asset. So lessee is from these expenses also. Now this lessee who is going to pay the periodic installment, these expenses, that is the lease rental, will be debited to his profit and loss statement. So this expense will help him in getting the tax shield or the tax advantage. And this is one of the most important factors that why people prefer to lease rather than buying an equipment itself. Now there are some advantages also. You might know the old quotation that every coin has two sides. So this lessor, now where this lessor is going to purchase the asset, he will also purchase the asset from somewhere else. He will take the loan from the bank and then he will use that funds to purchase this asset. And then this lessor is going to pay the installment. But what if this lessor defaults? He don't pay the installment. So what will be the bank do? Bank can seize the asset and then it can result in the hurdle for the lessee because it can even seize the asset. The second disadvantage is that what happens in banks, when you take a loan, you can get a period that after 2 years, after 3 years, you can pay the interest or the amount installment. But what happens in lease? Lease results in immediate outflow, which may not be suitable for the new startups or the new projects. And why lease is not common? Because the interest rate, the lease rental is comparatively higher as compared to the interest which is charged by the bank. Thank you.